Last winter, before most of us finished scraping the frost off our windshields, flatbeds rolled out of John Deere's giant Waterloo, Iowa complex. They weren't hauling tractors to customers. They were shipping entire assembly rigs south of the border. A month later, on a Pennsylvania stage ringed with red caps and floodlights, former President Trump pointed straight at the TV cameras and growled, "If Deere bolts for Mexico, I'll slap a 200% tariff on every green machine they try to roll back through our gates." Farmers gasped, investors panicked, and a century-old love affair between Middle America and its favorite brand suddenly felt like it was running on three wheels. But that was only the first crack of thunder, because what came next rattled boardrooms from Wall Street to Monterrey. Step onto any rural county fair, and you'll see kids in neon green trucker hats, retirees swapping repair hacks, and a line of spotless 4,020-somethings gleaming like museum pieces. John Deere isn't just a company. It's heritage stitched into American soil. Born in 1837 with a polished steel plow that saved prairie farmers from sticky loam, the firm ballooned into a global $80 billion titan. In fiscal 2023, it raked in record profits, over $10 billion, and rewarded shareholders with a jaw-dropping $7.2 billion in buybacks. Yet behind the shiny numbers was a storm of rising labor costs, semiconductor shortages, and a bruising 5-week UAW strike that ended with 20% wage bumps. Management had to choose: keep every bolt stateside and watch margins wilt, or chase cheaper horizons and hope loyal customers wouldn't notice. They chose Horizon. In May 2024, Deere quietly posted an internal memo. The cab fabrication and welding lines that formed the skeleton of its high-horsepower tractors would relocate to Ramos Arizpe, Coahuila. The move included a fresh $55 million investment, new laser-guided weld robots, and a pledge to complete the transition by the close of 2025. Executives framed the decision as future-proofing the supply chain. Mexico, they pointed out, is now the fastest-growing construction equipment market in Latin America. Skeptics snorted. It wasn't about proximity. It was about payrolls. An Iowa welder tops $30 an hour. His Mexican counterpart earns roughly a third. The memo leaked, and within 48 hours, the hashtag #BoycottDeere trended on Farm Talk. Dealers fielded furious calls. "My granddad fought wars with that logo on his hat. Why can't you fight to keep jobs here?" One video ranted, racking up 2 million views overnight. Yet for Wall Street, the relocation looked like shrewd arithmetic. Strip out $150 million a year in labor costs, modernize plants with brand new robotics, and chase tax breaks dangled by Mexico's federal government. The stock ticked up 3% until politics jumped the fence. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump smells offshoring the way a bloodhound smells bacon grease. Standing in Smithton, Pennsylvania, deep in steel country, he waved a crumpled news clipping. "John Deere wants to ditch you," he roared. Well, if they so much as bolt a wheel in Mexico, every tractor that crosses our border gets hit with a 200% tariff. 200. They'll come crawling back faster than you can say, "Made in America." The crowd erupted. Fox rebroadcast the clip on loop. CNBC analysts clutched trade law handbooks. Because here's the snag. Under the USMCA, the US can't just carpet bomb a single company with punitive duties. Any tariff that large would either violate the pact or trigger a messy renegotiation. Exactly the theater Trump seems to relish. Deere's legal team reportedly burned entire weekends gaming scenarios. Could the threat stick? Would Washington carve out an emergency clause? Or was it classic campaign theater designed to score Rust Belt votes? Whatever the answer, The market didn't wait. Within hours, Deere shares slid 6%, erasing almost $4 billion in market cap. For union leaders, the timing was brutal. Just weeks earlier, Deere confirmed the first wave of 1,500 U.S. layoffs, even while touting billion-dollar buybacks on quarterly calls. The optics? Ugly. The UAW blasted management for gutting communities to goose share price metrics, staging candlelight vigils outside Waterloo's gates. Local diners felt the chill. Empty breakfast booths, tipped back coffee mugs, whispered worries about mortgage payments. Meanwhile, Deere's CFO told analysts the layoffs were strategic realignment, not a repeat of 2021's strike drama. Maybe so, but to the family's packing boxes, that difference felt semantic. And with Trump's tariff sledgehammer swinging overhead, rumor mills churned. Would the company double-cut jobs and market access in one fell swoop? Farmers sat in an impossible bind. On one hand, the green machines are irreplaceable. They hold their value. Parts arrive in days. And every mechanic from Kansas to Kentucky knows their guts. On the other, patriotism runs deep. I won't pay Mexico wages with American dollars, one Illinois corn grower declared on a TikTok rant that nabbed 500,000 likes. Competitors smelled blood. CNH Industrial quietly shelved its own Monterrey expansion, sensing the PR blowback wasn't worth the savings. Caterpillar lobbyists, insiders claim, started pushing Senate offices for a balanced approach to reshoring. Code for "don't let tariffs upend our cost models, please." It was no longer a Deere story. It was an industry earthquake. That's when the whispers began. Sources inside the Commerce Department hinted at phone calls between Deere executives and mid-level trade officials. The gist? Float a compromise. Keep final assembly in Iowa. Ship subcomponents from Mexico. Revamp an empty North Carolina facility in exchange for juicy green energy tax credits. ESG-focused hedge funds piled on, warning the board they'd vote against directors if the company abandoned its social license. One activist investor branded the relocation plan a 19th century answer to a 21st century cost problem. Meanwhile, Mexican governors courted Deere with promises of expedited rail spurs and power subsidies. They knew a global icon brings suppliers, hotels, and satellite factories in tow. The chessboard was international, the clock ticking toward election day. Underneath the headlines lurks a bigger quandary. Can the U.S. or any country enforce industrial loyalty in a hypermobile world? Labor unions point to Germany's co-determination model. Free market economists retort that chasing the cheapest input is capitalism's beating heart. The Biden-Harris White House, wary of alienating either camp, issued a tepid statement about supporting fair trade and American workers. Translation: we'd rather not poke that hornet's nest right now. And the USMCA? Lawyers say tearing it open over one company could unravel North American supply chains overnight. But voters remember the ghost town factories of the 2000s. They tune out acronyms and tune in to gut-level fury. Why does my neighbor's kid need to learn coding if the robots are in Mexico anyway? So here we stand, a 188-year-old emblem of American grit, betting billions on cross-border robotics, while a former president brandishes the biggest tariff club in modern memory. If Deere blinks, it risks billions in sunk costs and bruised investor trust. If it barrels ahead, it could face tariff walls, angry farmers, and a union base ready to strike again. Will the green giant swerve back onto U.S. soil? Will Trump, if re-elected, find a legal loophole big enough to drive a combine through? And, perhaps most hauntingly, if an all-American icon can uproot so easily, which pillar of Main Street is next? One thing's for sure, the seeds of this story are still sprouting. Stick around, because when the next bolt comes loose, it won't just rattle tractor frames. It could shake the ground under every factory left in the heartland. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold backstories, and ring the bell so you're first to know when the next chapter drops.